Today we're going to talk about the Uniform Code of Military Justice and who can impose an NJP, or a non-judicial punishment, or as other services call them, an Article 15. Now, a lot of Marines don't actually know who can NJP them and how much authority that individual actually has. Now, the NJP comes from the Article 15 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Only commanding officers can impose NJP. Now, this can be your company commander or a battery commander, which is usually a captain. Sometimes this can be a lieutenant, or sometimes even more rare occasions in the Marine Corps can be a chief warrant officer. Squadron or battalion commanders at the 05 level, lieutenant colonels, can also do it. In other instances, such as recruiting station commanders that are usually majors, can do it. Bottom line is, if the individual is formally under command under Title 10, then they can NJP you. Now, who cannot NJP you? Platoon commanders, first sergeants, sergeants major, and anybody else that does not have Title 10 authority of command. However, your NCOs and your staff NCOs can do a few things. They can recommend that you be NJP'd. They can advise the commander on the circumstances of the NJP and possible punishments through that NJP. Your staff NCOs and or other officers can be appointed as investigating officers into the circumstances of why somebody thinks that you need to be NJP'd. However, they cannot punish. It is only your company commander or your battalion commander. The reason being is because this is a legal process and it's not just about enforcing discipline. The commander must review the evidence, determine probable cause, decide disposition, and advise you of your rights. However, your rights are usually advised to you multiple times prior to the NJP, starting with your first sergeant. They will be advised to you again during the NJP proceedings by the commander. Also during the NJP, the commander must offer you the option to refuse the NJP and go to court-martial. The only time this option is not available is when you're underway on a ship. And then finally, the commander must determine the punishment within his or her legal limits. Now, what are the limits of these individuals can do to enforce punishment? A company commander can impose 14 days of restriction to quarters and 14 days of extra police duties, or 21 days of restriction to quarters with no extra duties. They can also impose taking half your paycheck for 2 months. Now, your battalion commander has a little bit more authority. They can impose restriction to quarters for up to 45 days along with EPD, extra police duties, of 45 days. Or they can do just straight 60 days restriction without EPD. They can also take a half month's pay for 2 months. And finally, they can take your rank from sergeant to corporal, corporal to lance corporal to PFC, or PFC to private. If you are the subject of an NJP, here's some things to know. You always have the right to know your charges. You always have the right to remain silent. You have the right to consult a defense counsel. You have the right to present evidence on your behalf and call a witness. You have the right to appeal the punishment. And in most cases, you have the right to refuse the NJP and move on to court-martial.